to Real Time Review. I'm your host, Jesse Nussman, and with me, again, fellow Atlanta film critic, Jason Evans. Jason, welcome. We have a very exciting episode this week. I feel like for the first time ever, we're going to have a heated episode, which we've been wanting to do for our audience, and I feel like the most heated we get on this show is me being like, Michael Mann's Ferrari lifted my soul, and you being like, it was okay.
Exactly. I wish I could wear a Deadpool mask right now.
Who do you think is the Deadpool versus the Wolverine in our relationship?
I actually think you're probably more the Deadpool and I'm more the Wolverine. You're a little bit funnier. I'm a little more stoic, I think, but
I have a little bit more kind of wiry energy from too much caffeine. So yeah, we're discussing kind of the big movie of the summer, or what seems like it may or may not be the big movie of the summer, which is Deadpool and Wolverine. We have polar opposite opinions on this, but
I don't understand. Well, we can get into it. I don't understand. You're going to tell me, you're going to explain your opinion. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Well, let's go to your opinion first. Let's get the hot takes from you, because you're way more positive on this than I am. I don't know that we need to explain this movie beyond it's Deadpool and Wolverine in a Marvel movie together, and it's meant to be like a buddy comedy. So with that,
if you want the really basic setup, I think you can say this. This is set several years after Avengers Endgame. Deadpool really wants to join the Avengers, and when he gets turned down, he kind of gets depressed. He gets very un-Deadpool. And then one day, some folks from the Time Variance Authority, which is a thing that's part of the Loki TV series, and honestly, one of the problems with this movie, I think, is that maybe you need a lot of Marvel mythology, to get what's happening. But some folks from the TVA come along, they grab Deadpool, they say, your universe is dying. And he goes, how can I save it? And they go, well, you need Wolverine, but Wolverine's dead. And that's the premise.
Yes, I'm glad you attempted to do that, because I never know what constitutes a spoiler with these things anymore.
I just gave you like the first maybe 15 minutes at the most.
Right. This is going to be also a fun exercise in seeing how we can talk about this movie while also not saying anything about this movie. But let's hear your thoughts first.
So I don't think I've laughed this much in a movie in a long time. I had as good a time watching this film as I have had in any Marvel movie, probably since Endgame. Now, I'm not saying, I actually think the best movie since Endgame is Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which has a ton of emotion to it and has some really interesting story kind of things that are going on. This is not a complex story. This is not a film that has a ton of emotion. There's a little bit in some parts, especially involving Wolverine. But for the most part, this is just go, have fun, laugh your ass off. And by the way, I mean, I missed entire jokes. I missed entire lines because the whole theater was laughing. And it is worth noting, it was not a theater full of fans. It was a theater full of about 40 film critics. It was not a full theater. And ordinarily that diminishes your movie-going experience. I was surprised that we didn't have regular fans, people who won radio passes, whatever it may be. But it was just us film critics, jaded as we are, howling with laughter. It was just a great time at the movies. It is not something serious. It's not going to reset the Marvel universe or anything like that. It's just a really good time. And I loved it. I took my son, who's in his mid-20s, he's almost your age. He loved it. I can't believe, Jesse, go ahead and give me your take, because I know that you didn't love it. I'm shocked at this.
Yeah, I should preface this by first saying, like, I've joked about it on some other episodes we've done. I'm not the biggest Ryan Reynolds fan, and I do think part of your enjoyment of this will depend on how much do you love Ryan Reynolds' just shtick. But that being said, I think this is a pretty evil movie that's kind of appalling, and I think is nothing more than just sort of like a celebration of Disney corporate dominance, and is as I sort of, I think, remarked afterwards, it just, to me, without getting into spoilers about who shows up and what you see, it's just like a string of references, and even the jokes feel like kind of recycled jokes from the other Deadpool movies, or they're making jokes about other previous Marvel movies that have already been made and beaten over the head. And I don't know, I could not help but just sort of sit and watch this movie and think about this is basically Disney acquiring the Fox properties that the Fox Marvel properties that they now own, and basically just saying like, well, we've kind of like run out of ideas, so let's just sort of dust off some old toys and kind of like march them across the screen and hope people clap by like seeing people return to their former roles. Even I would argue, don't you feel I feel like total waste of Hugh Jackman in that this movie basically, without giving any spoilers, I think does the resurrects, so to speak, Wolverine to basically give Wolverine the same arc as he had in Logan. And even then, like, I would have loved for this to have been like the superhero equivalent of planes, trains, and automobiles, or, Midnight Run. But like, Ryan Reynolds is the only one that's really allowed to have like fun and make jokes. And like, Hugh Jackman is just so serious the whole movie. And like, I don't know, to me, just sitting there and watching, the all this reverence for, all of these sort of old properties and old characters that we have sort of long forgotten. I don't know that I think this movie is just sort of like cynical and kind of like represents all the kind of things that I find kind of annoying about kind of modern day Hollywood, and almost kind of walked out thinking, and then I'll give you a chance to rebuttal. I almost kind of walked out being like, you know what? The state that Hollywood's in, Hollywood deserves to be in there. The rough state it deserves. If this is what we're pouring all of our like time and effort and money into just sort of like recycling the same old thing over and over again, then just like, I don't know, maybe Hollywood does deserve to like be in a bit of an existential crisis at this moment.
So part of your arguments, it's tough for me to respond to them without giving away some spoilers about some of the things that are in the movie. But
Yeah.
in general terms, one of the things you said is that you feel like this is Disney celebrating their dominance over the rest of the industry. I actually think quite the opposite. I think this was those forgotten 20th Century Fox properties saying, no, we still matter. Look at us. We are still something worthwhile, because to be honest, it's not like Disney is developing these properties and doing additional things with them. So I think that take is the exact opposite of how I felt about it. I enjoyed revisiting some of these, again, no spoilers, but some of these blasts from the past, so to speak, as well as some of them that are more legendary than real. And again, I'm not going to get into the
Yes.
specifics of that, but look, everyone knows there are a ton of cameos. Everyone knows that, this is the kind of thing that this movie's about. So I don't think we're spoiling anything for anybody by saying those kind of things. Jesse, my question for you would be this. If you think, oh, Hollywood gets what it deserves and that kind of thing. Does Hollywood deserve to have fun? Didn't you laugh? How much did you laugh in this movie?
I smirked. Is it a spoiler to say there is a joke revolving around the musical The Music Man, and the fact that Hugh Jackman was in that musical on Broadway? That I smirked at that. There is one set piece, is all I'll say. I think you'll know what I'm talking about near the end of the movie, that I thought was actually like pretty cool. And I was like, oh, this is like a cool like comic book splash page visualized on screen.
Yeah, where it
But
goes on and on. I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, but even then, like, the action scenes I think kind of suck in this. Like, there's no stakes to any of the. That's the other thing I have with this, is like, I feel like there's zero stakes to any of this at this point, because anyone can kind of just come back and anyone can kind of just be recycled at any moment. So for me, there's kind of like a lack of just sort of investment in this, because it's just sort of like, you know, let's let's dump out the stuff that we got from the yard sale and just kind of like try and brush that off and pass that off for new content. Like, I would have loved if we had gotten. I'm potentially excited if we want to get a new Marvel X-Men movie that is like, just because I think those Fox X-Men movies have room for improvement. Of like, the X-Men comics are so vast and crazy, and there's so many great characters. Like, I think that is a property that I have hope and potential for. But this just sort of, to me, felt kind of like the laziest sort of like, well, dust off the old stuff and kind of like throw it out there.
I just couldn't disagree more. So you didn't. I'm surprised you didn't laugh because,
Yeah, I
frankly,
mean
everyone around me was laughing
yeah,
really loudly,
yeah.
repeatedly. Do
I
you
just
deny that?
and it gets a bit to the humor of it of just like maybe I just don't find the Ryan Reynolds thing that funny anymore, but also it kind of feels like the movie has like three or four jokes that it just sort of does over and over and over and
No,
over again.
no, no. All
Even the
right.
end
So let me
credit
ask you.
scene is like a joke done for like the eighth time in a movie in the movie.
Let me ask you another question then.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is going to get an A or better cinema score? Do you think that audiences that see it are going to love it?
Oh, 100%. I mean, because I watch this. The thing I am posing to everyone is, shall we think a little bit more about like what Hollywood is offering us in that this is the sort of like the heroin needle that we find ourselves in, and maybe this is the better way I'll explain it. I'm gonna invoke one of our great poets, Mr. Kendrick Lamar, and a
Go
diss
ahead.
track he had against Drake, where I believe he told Drake, "You make music, I make music that electrifies us. You make music that pacifies us." And that's kind of what I thought watching this movie is like. This is a movie to, if you want to go to the movies to feel pacified into just sort of the same sort of nostalgia pleasure centers being hit over and over again, you'll have a great time. If I'm someone, the thing I love so much about going to the movies is the excitement of something new, fresh, provocative, you know, make me think, make me laugh, make me cry. And this just sort of felt like reheated leftovers that were just sort of thrown on a plate for me.
Do you know why Hollywood has the money to make movies like Challengers, which is a film that I think both of us adored that falls into exactly the category you're talking about? Because they also have the money to make movies like this. Look, there's a famous South Park episode where they talk about member berries and like, oh, we just
I thought of this
exist.
exactly as well.
Yes,
Yes.
we exist and we have fun living in our memories. And oh, remember that time and remember. And this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, is full of that kind of thing. But you know what? It's fun. It's enjoyable. It is exactly what the audience wants it to be. It's exactly what the audience expects it to be. And I am telling you, it's going to make all the money. I don't know if it's going to do
I'm
quite as
sure
well as
it
Inside
will.
Out 2, but this film's going to make $400+ million for sure. If not, 5 or maybe even $600 million. It is what Marvel comic book fans have been clamoring for years. And it's a good time. If you My ultimate goal when I'm talking to people on here is, should you spend your money, should you spend your time on this? Will you be entertained? Will you be enlightened? Will something change about you, whatever else it may be? Will you be entertained? Will you be happy that you spent your money? 110% on this movie. That's the bottom line. You're right. It is not art. This film is probably not going to be, it's not going to be in your top, probably not going to be my top 10 for the year. It is not going to be up for awards. Not every film has to be that. Sometimes we get to go to the movies to laugh, have a good time, and just come out of it cheering and thrilled that we got to spend a couple hours doing something that made us happy. And sometimes we do that by tapping into our memories of other things that made us happy in the past. It's not the end of the world. It's also, you're right, it's not art, but goodness gracious. I mean, like,
Hey,
everyone I
I
know who's
like
a
I
Marvel
said,
fan,
I
every
would have
Marvel fan needs to
loved
go see this.
if this was like a fun like buddy cop. I mean, this is the other thing I want to this is a question I had coming out of it that I want to ask you. Is Deadpool marketing at this point more creative and funny than the Deadpool movies are at this point, of just sort of like the level of inventiveness and willingness to sort of like I almost wonder, we kind of wanted to pose this question of like, does Deadpool quote like save the Marvel universe? And I think if this movie
Hey,
makes
really
enough
quick,
money, I think from a sort of corporate franchise perspective, yeah, I can imagine this movie might get people excited of the MCU again. Though I wonder also, would a better movie or a movie that would have been more successful from where I'm coming from have been a movie that basically just was the opposite of that answer, a movie that actually was not good for the Marvel franchise, but a movie that was basically just like all of this is nonsense and doesn't make sense at this point, and there's no stakes to any of this. So we're just going to go like full cartoon buck wild at every moment. And this
That's what
movie,
this is.
what does it?
Yes.
Because like it tries to also have some emotional stakes for like Deadpool and Wolverine and try and it's about their emotional redemption and stuff like
Sure, they
that.
have some. They have some, but yes, for the most part, like the question, does Deadpool save the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I think the answer is maybe no, because I don't know that this film, like I'd heard like, oh, this is going to reset the MCU and set
Yeah,
us
it
on a new
doesn't
course.
really do that, I
No,
think,
I don't know
without
that it
getting
does
into
that, and
spoilers.
I'm not even entirely sure how this will impact any future Marvel property. I mean, like, look, most of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, one connects to the next, connects to the next. This to me doesn't connect all that much to the past. Doesn't I don't see how it's going to connect to the future. Maybe, but I don't really see how it's going to connect to the future that much. I guess probably you're going to bring Deadpool into more and more Marvel movies. But you're right. One of the problems with Deadpool is that he's breaking the fourth wall so much. He's so invincible. He's able to sort of do whatever he needs to, especially now that you've got him going jumping multiverses and stuff, which I agree is a problem from a storytelling standpoint. You know, how do you bring Deadpool in when like where does his power fall compared to all the other Avengers and such when he can kind of do anything?
Yeah.
I mean, that's potentially problematic. So I don't know that it saves the MCU in that way. I think the place it does save the MCU is it's going to make a ton of money. It's going to buy a lot of goodwill. Fans who are frustrated at the Marvels and several other MCU properties recently are just going to be like, yes, we're back to having a good time in the movies. And that's a good thing. It'll build goodwill for the MCU and for the, proper like Captain America. They got a Captain America movie coming out, a couple of Thunderbolts, I think, or something like that. In any event, I think this helps those to have a renewed interest in them again. But like the expectation that this film itself is going to reset the MCU and put it on a different course,
No, yeah.
no way.
Well, Jason, we could probably continue arguing about this movie for 4 hours, but I don't know that anyone would sit and watch 4 hours of us arguing.
We've
Though,
we've been we've been abundantly clear.
yes,
I say it's fun, have a good time. You say it doesn't amount to very much.
yes. And
Audiences are going to agree with me.
choose your own adventure. Maybe audiences will agree with you now, and then it'll be like the 2019 Lion King movie. It made a ton of money, and then 5 years later, we're like, why did we do that? That didn't make sense.
Yes, well, I will say though that when I watched the 2019 Lion King movie, I immediately came out of it and said, "Why did we do that?"
Yeah, yeah, which was kind of my opinion here. But Jason, thank you as always for coming on the show, and we'll have you back at some point. Maybe we'll talk M. Night Shyamalan's Trap, and which they're not going to screen for us, but I'm gonna put my ticket out there for M. Night. I'm gonna put my hard-earned money out there for that guy.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. I'm not completely convinced.
Come on, it's just you're not ready for the Josh Hartnett, redemption tour. My man's back on the bear. He's an Oppenheimer. It's like when we had the reconnaissance. It's the Josh Hartnett sans.
I do think that M. Night Shyamalan movie, that Trap, seems really interesting. To me, the fascinating thing about it is it looks like the main character is just an unrepentant serial killing just bad guy.
Let's
So like
go.
we're gonna spend all our time. I think that's fascinating. The notion that are we rooting for him? I don't, I'm not sure. He's not going to be someone that can be redeemed, I don't think, because he's done some awful, terrible things. So I'm not quite sure where the audience is going to fall on this. I am disappointed that they're not screening it for critics. I think that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, M
Maybe
Night.
maybe they'll be wrong. Maybe they just think we can't have fun with a villain character. Maybe in a month or so we'll be like, we got Alien Romulus, we got Trap. August was just like the month for us sickos at the movies.
We'll see.